You know, the story of how we understand the human mind is one of science's all-time greatest glow-ups. I mean, we went from seeing the mind as some kind of unexplainable magic to knowing for a fact that it's a physical, biological system. And realizing that, well, that single shift changes absolutely everything.
So let's just start with the one question that really matters. Are you stuck with the brain you were born with? You know, is your ability to focus or be happy or have self-control just a fixed trait you've got to live with? For centuries, the answer to that pretty much seemed to be, yep, but oh man, science has given us a new and much more powerful answer.
See, the old myth was all about judgment. You had a weak mind or a strong mind. It's so black and white, right? But what we know now reveals a totally different reality. Your mind is the product of a biological system, and the most important part, it's a system that is trainable. So let's unpack that journey from myth to actual science.
Okay, so our journey really starts with the mind's own Big Bang, that incredible moment when psychology stopped being just philosophy and became a real, hard science. It was a giant leap, and it all started by looking closer, way closer than ever before.
For the longest time, everyone thought the brain was just one continuous blob of tissue. But the huge breakthrough was discovering it's actually made of billions of individual, separate cells. This idea, called the neuron doctrine, was an absolute game changer. It meant our thoughts and feelings weren't just some mysterious vapor floating around in our skulls. They were actually rooted in the physical interactions of tiny biological parts.
So, to really get a handle on the brain, we have to start with that fundamental building block. We're talking about the cells that create your entire world, everything from feeling joy to remembering your first crush. It's time to meet your neurons.
So, what even is a neuron? Well, think of it as a tiny little biological machine. It's a specialized cell, and its one job is to process and send information. And it does that job incredibly well. Every single thought, every sensation, every move you make, it's all the result of these little cells firing away in complex patterns, speaking a language made of electricity and chemistry.
So how does that even work? Well, picture an incredibly fast relay race. A thought kicks off as an electrical spark that just zips down one neuron. When it gets to the end, it triggers the release of these chemical messengers. Those little guys jump across a tiny gap to the next neuron and basically tell it whether to fire or stay put. And this whole thing, it happens billions of times, every single second.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. The type of chemical messenger matters a lot. These aren't just random signals. They have very specific jobs. You've probably heard of dopamine. That's the molecule of motivation and reward. Serotonin helps keep your mood stable. And acetylcholine, it's crucial for learning and memory. This is the proof that our psychological states are directly wired to our brain chemistry.
All right, this brings us to what is, I think, the single biggest game changer in all of neuroscience. It's the discovery that our brain isn't this static, fixed thing we're born with. Nope, it's dynamic, it's responsive, and it's constantly changing. Welcome to the neuroplasticity revolution.
You know, the old way of thinking was that once you hit your 20s, your brain was basically set in stone. You got what you got, and that was it. But the new science just completely blew that idea out of the water. We now know for a fact that the brain is constantly rewiring itself, strengthening connections, pruning others, all based on your thoughts, your actions, and your experiences. And the best part? This happens for your entire life. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't some feel-good quote from a motivational poster. This is a statement of biological fact. You are not stuck with the brain you have today. You are an active participant in what it becomes tomorrow.
And the implications of this are just profound. It means that when you build a new habit, you are literally, physically carving new pathways in your brain. It shows us that trauma, but also the process of healing from it, leaves a tangible biological mark. And maybe the most important thing of all, it proves that changing your mindset isn't just wishful thinking. It's a real, physical process of rewiring.
So let's put this into practice. Let's look at how this all plays out in a situation we have all felt: stress. The biology of our brain perfectly explains that internal tug-of-war we feel between staying in control and, well, total chaos when we're under pressure.
So first up, let's meet the CEO of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC for short. This is the sophisticated, rational part of you right behind your forehead. It's in charge of the big stuff: long-term planning, controlling your emotions, making thoughtful decisions. Basically, it's your inner adult.
And now, let's meet your brain's threat detector, the amygdala. This is a much older, more primitive part of the brain. Its job is really simple:
Scan for danger and sound the alarm, fast. It's not a personality flaw or a weakness. It's a hardwired survival circuit that's kept us humans alive for a very, very long time.
Okay, so when things are calm, when you're feeling safe, your brain is operating just as it should. The CEO, that's your prefrontal cortex, is at the helm. It's making rational, calculated decisions and keeping your emotional reactions in check. Everything's running smoothly.
But what happens when that threat detector, the amygdala, senses danger? What happens when you get that angry email from your boss or you're in a heated argument? When that stress level spikes, the entire balance of power in your brain shifts dramatically.
And this is exactly what happens. The rational CEO, your prefrontal cortex, basically goes offline. Its resources get diverted, and in its place, the emotional, reactive threat detector, your amygdala, takes over the whole operation. This is why it feels so impossible to think clearly when you're anxious or angry. Stress isn't just in your head, it literally hijacks your brain's control center.
So, where does this all leave us? Let's bring it all together. All these breakthroughs, from neurons to neuroplasticity, give us a completely new way of thinking about ourselves. It's like we've been handed the blueprint and the tools, and we're now the architects of our own minds.
Here it is, the ultimate breakthrough, the grand conclusion of all this incredible science. Psychology isn't separate from biology, they're the same thing. Your thoughts, your emotions, your personality, who you think you are, it's all the result of biological processes. And the key thing is, these are processes that are constantly being shaped and reshaped by your life experiences.
This understanding means we can finally throw out those old, unhelpful labels we put on ourselves. You don't just lack motivation. No, you have a dopamine system that might need different kinds of input. You don't have a weak mind. Honestly, that phrase is scientifically meaningless.
Instead of seeing flaws in your character, you can now see a nervous system. A system with circuits that have been wired by all of your past experiences. But, and this is thanks to neuroplasticity, it's also a system with circuits that you can consciously choose to retrain for your future. And that realization, that is the most powerful breakthrough of all.
So, we've learned that your brain isn't some finished statue, right? It's a dynamic, living blueprint. Your experiences, your focus, your habits, those are the tools you use to build upon it every single day. So the only real question left is, what will you build?